I'm currently in the middle of trying to find a house. Moving, for me, is a common event. I tend to move around a lot, mostly for work. This time is different. This time I'm moving since there's been a recent incident that happened that is forcing me to leave quickly. I have a list written out of houses that have open houses scheduled throughout this week and next, hoping that I'll end up moving within the next couple weeks. I already have everything packed up in boxes, and I rented a moving truck, which is parked in my driveway. A few days go by, and it's the day of the first 3 open houses. The first one is located an hour away, and it starts in a half hour. However, it's open for 2 hours, so I wasn't in too much of a rush. Eventually, I made it to the house. The outside of it was neatly decorated with flowers and trees. The front door was wide open so that the guests coming to look at the house could enter. Walking into the house, the real estate agent greeted me and encouraged me to take a look around. I took about 20 minutes to look around the house. I came to the conclusion that it wasn't going to be the house I move into, since even though the house itself was nice, there were too many neighbors. I left that house and drove another whore to the second open house. I arrived about 10 minutes early, so I waited for the real estate agent to come and open up the house for viewing. The outside of this house looks slightly larger than the first one, with a beautiful willow tree in the front yard. Finally, the real estate agent pulled up, got out of his car and unlocked the door. I walked up to the house and entered. Again, the agent greeted me and told me to look around. The windows in the living room were large and beautiful, letting tons of sunlight flood inside. The kitchen was huge, with marble countertops and the same large, beautiful windows. I didn't look at the rest of the house because I knew that this wasn't the house either. The house was absolutely gorgeous, but the windows wouldn't give me the privacy I need. I moved on to the next house. It's an additional half an hour away from the second house. In total, the third house is 2.5 hours away from my current house. I arrived at the third house shortly after the open house began. This house is smaller than the first 2, and for some reason it looked familiar. The house is somewhat out in the country, so the closest neighbors were either half a mile or a mile away, which is perfect. I walked inside and glanced around the rooms.
Inside it looked like it had been abandoned at one time. The carpets were clean but tattered. The walls were slightly dirty, and the windows appeared to have been recently replaced. Were the windows broken at one time? Is that why they were replaced? I asked the real estate agent. He turned to me with a surprised expression on his face, as if he was surprised that I asked. Yes, actually, and what happened? Why were they broken? I continued. Well, the house was abandoned by the previous owners, and it sat here empty for a little while. However, while it was empty, it was vandalized and all the windows had been broken. In order to sell the house, we had to replace the windows and clean it. He replied, does anyone know why the previous owners left? Apparently, they didn't actually leave. They were murdered in their home and, for a while, no one wanted the house. The real estate agent paused before continuing. Although that's what people say, I'm not sure that's actually true, so no need to worry. I'm not worried. All right then. With that, he left the room to tend to the other guests. Little did he know, I remembered why the house was so familiar to me. What he said about the previous owners being murdered was true. The reason I know this is because I'm the one who murdered them in this house. They were my first targets. Later that day, I paid cash for the house and moved in 2 days later. Who would think a murderer would move into their victim's house?
Last year, the night before Halloween, my parents hosted a Halloween costume party. All of our friends and family showed up. At this time, I was around the age of 11 and my sister, Macy, was 9. During the party, all the kids played around and pretended to be the character they were dressed up as, while the adults talked and ate snacks. The party lasted until 10:30. Most of the people who came had left. My aunt and uncle along with our cousins stayed a while longer, so the 4 of us kids decided to play a game of hide and seek. Our cousin Mark is the same age as me. Mark ended up being the one who counted, while Allie, Mark's sister, Macy, and I all ran to our hiding spots. Allie hid in a closet upstairs while Macy and I hid in the laundry room in the basement. Macy and I hid together because neither of us were brave enough to hide in the basement alone. The both of us crouched down next to the dryer, in the dark and out of sight from the doorway. We heard Mark yell, "Ready or not, here I come," from upstairs where we left him. Macy and I stayed totally quiet, not wanting to be the first ones found. "Brittany, why are you breathing so heavily?" Macy suddenly asked me. "I'm not," I told her. That's when I heard it too, a heavy breathing in my right ear, right between Macy and I. In that moment I run to the light switch and flip the light on. It was just the two of us in the room. The two of us screamed and darted up the stairs, no longer caring about the game we were playing. Our parents freaked out when they heard us screaming, and when they asked us what was wrong, all we told them was that we got scared of the dark. We didn't think they would believe us if we told them what really happened. After that, we didn't continue playing hide and seek, and the four of us just hung out and played in me and Macy's room. I'm 16 now. Macy and I are still terrified of the laundry room to this day.